So my talk is going to be about the reason association, but before I even talk about this, I need to establish some background so you know what this is all about. There's a programming language which is called Reason. Who of you have heard about Reason ML? Oh yes, a lot of people probably converting the next day to this wonderful language. So Reason is not really its own language. It's just a different syntax on top of another language, which is called OCaml. And OCaml is more in the scientific context. It's used mostly for system engineering tasks, for compiler building, for parser building, and for building other languages, which is interesting. But the whole project Reason is trying to leverage this platform to build UIs with it, and especially to build it for JavaScript. So you can now use the OCaml platform in a very efficient way to compile to JavaScript and can use existing NPM libraries very easily, especially one very specific one, which is React. And as we know, wherever React puts its shadow on, it's going to be kind of famous. I don't know why. So whenever, it is somehow compatible remotely with React, suddenly it explodes. And this also happened for Reason. Also the inventor of the language or the syntax is Jordan Walk, who is also the inventor of React. And he's a huge fan of ML-based languages like OCaml. So what did he do initially before React even existed in JavaScript? He built a prototype in standard ML, which is also a strongly typed functional language. So everything goes in the direction that people now understand the value of immutable data structures, of declarative UI. You have a component, you give it some props, and it will always render the same way. The two-way data bindings is probably something too complicated. Maybe one-way data binding is easier. And all these concepts are really, really well reflected in the OCaml ecosystem. So the problem with Reason is that's another language. It looks a lot like JavaScript, as you can see here, but it has some different semantics underneath. And it also has different data types, which you probably don't know from JavaScript. And therefore, there's a lot of churn if you try to learn this language. Also, there is another language which is very famous in the JavaScript ecosystem, which is TypeScript. And a lot of people try to compare Reason with TypeScript, which is not necessarily the best thing to do, because one major argument I have with Reason is that it can compile to a native executable, similar to how you can do it with Go. Like if you know Go, it can compile to one single executable. You can take this executable and just port it to any platform you want. You don't need any Node runtime, you don't need any Node modules installed. You just take this executable, put it on the other machine, and can execute it. You can do the same thing with OCaml-based applications. So this is something, there are many areas you can use Reason for. Also recently, another thing, if you're into cryptocurrencies, there's this project called Tezos, and Tezos has a scripting language which is also based on OCaml. So all the ways, there's the saying, all the ways leads to the camels. Anyways, why am I mentioning this? So there is a nice title here which says, ReasonConf 2019 is happening in Europe. And not anywhere in Europe, it's happening in Vienna. And Andre, Nick, where's Nick? Is he here? Over there, this guy. Andre and me, we are the co-organizers of this conference. It's the second time we do this conference. And the nice thing about it is that it's roughly the same size like here, but now you can imagine that every single person in this room is somehow related to each other. They know each other from the chat, they know each other from projects, they have been working together for several months or even years, and then they come together and they are like, hey, who are you? And they look at the badge and they're like, whoa, you're this guy, you're Rupi, what? I didn't even recognize you, because you just have the avatars, you don't really see the people. And suddenly you have this personal connection. And this is something what I find really, really wonderful on this conference. And there are still tickets left. It's rather cheap, I think, from the 11th to 13th of April. It's a 3-day conference We have workshops on the first day, we have a conference day, and then we have something similar to this, like lightning talks in the beginning, and later on we have a hackathon. And since the first installment of this conference was so successful in a way, I mean, we had like, I think 180 people here, and everyone was so excited about it, and it also turned out to be a positive outcome, like money-wise. So we had some money left to plan the next thing. What could we possibly do to enhance the ecosystem? And as I said, Reason is kind of like in this weird spot where people kind of dig it, but at the same time nobody tries to commit on it. Why? Because there is no real commitment from companies except Facebook, which is the umbrella corporation of this. But we need more commitment. We need a roadmap. We need to understand where the language is going. And we were sitting together with the core team members of the ReasonML programming language. We have been talking to Jordan and all the other people. What do you think about what if we had an association or a foundation of the language which can support like the development of the platform, which is able to raise money and give it to open source developers. We have a lot of open source developers working on the ecosystem. And we pitched the idea that, like, well, maybe it would be a good idea to have some kind of committee or maybe have some kind of organization. And this is exactly what we did afterwards. Like after, it's a huge process. It took at least, I don't know, I think 8 to 9 months until we finally got something up, because Austrian law is obviously very complicated. If you want to be a non-profit organization, there is no real legal structure for that. We are a Verein, an association, so we are completely non-profit, declared by our statutes, and we support the development of both platforms. We are really convinced that Reason and OCaml can coexist, and they should support each other. So whenever OCaml's major tooling is being improved, the ReasonML ecosystem profits from it. And the ReasonML ecosystem can help OCaml ecosystem by bringing in JavaScript developers, like the biggest community there is on the planet, in my opinion. Like there are so many JavaScript developers, I don't know. So this is what we did, and I want you to know that this actually exists, that we are in Vienna. It's right around the corner. It's just an 8-hour trip up there, you know? It's a nice trip though. We are looking for, of course, we need support for this cause. If you're an open source developer who is interested into language building, or if you ever wondered, how do you do editor integration? How do you do auto-completion in VS Code? We all have access to these kind of tools. We help developing them. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff, you can totally come to me, you can come to Nick. We can talk about it. Andres, I don't want to mention Andre because he's not like, he's very good at organizing conferences and he's really into that. You can talk with him about UI, but for Reason and the language ecosystem, come to me or to Nick. And yeah, that's all I have, and I wish this was informative, and thank you very much. This conference has been gradually getting better for me. The quality of the lineup is usually really, really good, and this is something I'm really saying thumbs up.
They're really trying to get speakers here that are pushing to the future of web technologies.
I just feel like it's a very community-driven conference. It also has a lot of quality, and people are just nice. Hi, my name is Sarah, and this is AgentConf in Dornbirn.
Amazing venue. Austria is beautiful. Meeting all of the people in the community and getting to go and hang out and ski.